Okay, everyone, we're back for a brand new week with the morning briefing for Monday, the 25th of March. How are we all? We're a good few days closer now to Celtic being back. We're now just, 6 days away, Ryan? It's probably going to be the longest build-up ever for a game against the bottom team in the league, but we're going to give it a good go. I guess there's things to talk about. How was your last stress-free weekend for a while?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, good to have a weekend off, sort of turn off from the football for a wee bit. But now the build-up is well and truly on. From now until the end of the season, there'll be almost no time to think about anything else other than this title race that looks like it's going to be going down to the wire. Wouldn't want it any other way, although maybe you'd want the league to be settled by now. But the situation that Celtic are in, they know what they need to do now from now until the end of the season. Everybody needs to be on the same boat. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting back into it. 6 days, as you said. Looking forward to Sunday afternoon when Celtic are back. It feels like it's been ages since they've played. It's only been a week.
I know it's weird. It's weird what a weekend can do, because I was kind of thinking, last week we're kind of doing quite well. We're getting through the international break, and then today I just had this realisation. Who was our last game against? And it took me like a good 30 seconds to actually remember without looking up, and I went, yeah, it was St Johnstone, wasn't it? And it just seems a while ago, and we're only kind of halfway through. But anyway, a couple more days of international football, Ryan, and we can properly do it. Not that we're going to wait, and we're obviously going to chat about Celtic. Morning to Paul and Mark giving his thoughts on the weekend, and they weren't particularly complimentary thoughts, but I don't blame you, Mark. Tom, or is that Tam, Jerry, Pete, is there any podcast you're not on these days, Hamish?
Been a busy boy.
No comment. I might be starting on your Formula 1 at some stage based on yesterday, but maybe not for now. Anyway, the legends at MPH Boilers are part of our family, and we want to take a minute to thank them. They've recently become Celtic community partners, and they're bringing you a special home cover plan offer. You can get comprehensive coverage for just 99 pence a month for the first 6 months. This includes everything from an annual boiler service to full heating system, plumbing and gas supply pipe coverage. After the first 6 months, the plan upgrades to just £25 a month for the remaining 6 months, ensuring your home is always in top condition all year round. If you're interested, you can message MPH Boilers Facebook page and you want to be quoting MPH Celtic. You can also call MPH Boilers directly on 0800 779 778 and again quote MPH Celtic. It's a fantastic way to support your home this year, and a big thanks to MPH Boilers for supporting the podcast and being a Celtic community partner. And of course, you can keep an eye out for the branding around the pitch. And just a shout out for this offer, Ryan.
Absolutely, yeah. 6 months of access. It's our best ever offer on the website. As much as we appreciate everybody supporting us on the YouTube channel, we need as many people to subscribe to the website as possible. It's what keeps the YouTube going. Without the website, the YouTube couldn't continue to be what it is today. 6 months of access for £1. You also receive a free Kyogo Furuhashi print made by Frankie, who's worked with the Scotland national team amongst other outfits with regard to our fantastic artwork. So if you are interested in joining the Celtic Way, then visit www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe and get involved. And we thank everybody for joining us that has done so far. It's been an incredible uptake. Please keep it going, and if you are interested, please visit that link.
Yes, nice stuff. Pete saying Ryan's obviously rehearsing for I'm a Celeb. I don't know what the situation with I'm a Celeb over there is, but I saw a thing the other day. Just, how we try and find Celtic links to anything. Where is it going?
Benjamin Siegrist's girlfriend's on it.
Yeah, the Australian one, isn't it? Must be the Australian one.
It's in South Africa. They're filming in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew that link was going to come up.
Brittany Hockley, I think she's quite a big deal here. I must say I've not seen her on television, but she's on I'm a Celeb Australia. Not that I'll be watching. Doesn't do it for me, that show. Too many creepy crawlies, etc. But yes, a Celtic link there. It's definitely an international break, Ryan, if we're talking about that. Natalie pointing out Dyson Maeda is back in Glasgow. His game got cancelled. Yes, that is the case. FIFA have actually cancelled North Korea versus Japan. Complicated reason. Basically, there's some sort of issue. North Korea couldn't host the game due to some virus outbreak, or one that they're alleging certainly. And I think they wanted to maybe move it somewhere, but a few factors have meant that FIFA have decided just to cancel the game. I'm boring myself even talking about this, so God knows how you all feel. But the upshot is no more football for Dais and Maida. You've been following any international football, Ryan, over the weekend?
Not really, no. And I've got to be honest and say I didn't watch the Scotland game on Friday night. I was away seeing a Smiths tribute band instead. So that was the extent of my Friday night. But I caught the score line. I heard that Scotland played okay for 70 minutes and then the sort of roof caved in with their defence. So that wasn't ideal. But, as long as it was a decent enough performance, Holland are an up-and-coming side. You'd probably say they've got good young players in there. Jeremy Frimpong's in there. Get the best defender in the world in Virgil van Dijk, you would say. So yeah, it's to be expected probably between the two teams. Historically, when you think of those two teams, you'd think that Holland would have their day against Scotland, especially when you put it man to man. But it seems by all accounts that Scotland played well for a large majority of it. Caught some of the England game the other night. I saw that Endrick scored, the young 17-year-old. But apart from that, I've not really been keeping that much tabs on international football. The way I've been seeing it is it's a bit of a break from football because it's been an all-encompassing season so far. Roller coasters, ups and downs, and I'm taking this last international break as a bit of respite before the real stuff comes back. And I think the Euros will take care of itself in the summer, but I just can't get up for friendlies in the same way, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the real competitive stuff comes back on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, football has to mean something for me, and friendlies just don't do it. Jerry pointing out Scotland, he's talking about caved in when John Souttar came on roll on the 7th. I would also, to be fair, Jerry, say that I think it was maybe 1-0 or maybe just 2-0 when Anthony Ralston came on and it finished 4-0. I'm joking. Ralston didn't have anything really to do with it, to be honest. But he got 20 minutes. Greg Taylor didn't play at all. Just a very quick roundup of everything else. Everyone, we're trying not to take too long doing this. Matt O'Reilly was an unused sub for Denmark. They drew against Switzerland. Adam Ida played 20 minutes for Ireland. They drew 0-0 as well with Belgium. I saw they missed a penalty, but it wasn't Ida. I can only assume he wasn't on the pitch at that stage.
It was Evan Ferguson that missed the penalty.
God, that's a hell of a downgrade, isn't it, Ida to Evan Ferguson? If Ida had taken it, he would definitely have scored. Odin Thiago Holm played second half for Norway's 21s. Paulo Bernardo played the full game for Portugal's 21s. Daniel Kelly played for Scotland's 19s. I saw their team, by the way, and they've got Daniel Kelly and Lennon Miller and David Watson as well. I mean, that's like three pretty talented youngsters. And I've heard a lot of people talking about David Watson and Lennon Miller as being players potentially for Celtic. I think I might be right in saying they're both Celtic fans.
One of them, yes, I think so.
David Watson certainly is.
I know that David Watson certainly is. Yeah, I know that. I think he's actually got a season ticket with the club, or he used to. So, I mean, he didn't let that stop him from celebrating against Celtic as you would do. In Kilmarnock, it was a great draw for Derek McInnes' side, who have had some really good results against Celtic and Rangers this season. So fair play to them, but. Two good young players, but it's good to see that Daniel Kelly's in amongst that as well. Shows you how highly he must be rated. Yeah. I'm wanting it to be the case that Celtic don't need to sign either one of these players because Daniel Kelly's good enough to immediately take that spot, and then that means that Celtic are promoting from within. But sorry, what were you going to say?
Do you think either of them are those two players, Miller or Watson, are like good enough right now to be signed by Celtic? Probably neither would start every game, but they both could surely come in and would they be better than signing someone like Bernardo, for example?
The thing about Bernardo, and I realised we hadn't really spoke about him, and I did want to speak about him on Friday, but time got ahead of us. But he must be doing something in training for all of these rumours to be coming out saying that Celtic want to sign him on a permanent deal. I know Edwards scored goals for Celtic in that loan season, but I think a lot of the fact was down to the fact that he was training really well and they could see the young player. You know, he was in the system for a year. He'd acclimatised to Scotland really well, and then they just signed him. They had that try before you buy. He was obviously doing it in training. I'm hoping that the same is the case for Bernardo, because there has been moments in which you're like, this guy looks a really, really good player. But, you know, especially recently, I think he's flattered to deceive in a lot of games. I do get him and Matt O'Reilly mixed up. It's always more handy when they're wearing different coloured boots, because they do, even the way they walk about, even physically they look similar, but the way that they run about the pitch as well makes it sometimes difficult to distinguish between them. But yeah, there's definitely talent there. I don't think I'd be going and signing him for £5-6 million, but if there's a deal to be done in which Celtic can whittle it down to 3-4 million, then for me that would be a no-brainer, because one or two of Matt O'Reilly and Rio Hatate will be leaving the club this summer. That's just a fact.
O'Reilly won't it? Hatate won't go, will he?
No, I think Hatate's due another season of playing first team football before getting that move. I think his stock's probably at his lowest since he's arrived in Europe at this point, due to his injuries, reoccurring injuries too. So I think Celtic could do a lot worse than sign Bernardo. I think a full pre-season could really help him. And a lot of the same negatives that are coming Bernardo's way were coming Matt O'Reilly's way last season because of Aaron Moy's performances. You know, it was between Aaron Moy and Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly wasn't starting every game last season. Took a pre-season for him under Brendan Rodgers, under a new manager, to make him feel, you know, at ease with himself. And he was showing that in the first half of the season. Yes, he's been up and down in the second half, but he's been Celtic's best player this season, arguably. And I think that Bernardo could be that player. He's got enough talent to show that he can make that step up. It's just all about consistency and playing to that level that we know that he's got in his game, because he showed it in December for a good 3-4 games in a row. The winter break came at the worst possible time for him, because he looked really bang on form, and then he had 2-3 weeks off. And I know he scored against Bucky Thistle, but after that he had a real downturn in form, and he's still in that sort of rut at the moment. So it's unfortunate for him, but I still think he can get up to that level. And long story short, I think David Watson and Lennon Miller, I would sign either or and then loan them back to either Kilmarnock or Motherwell, give them game time for another season. You've still got them on their books, but you know that they're going to be playing game in, game out, and their value will only be increasing at Celtic. You know, they're on loan, but they're Celtic's player, rather than if they're at Motherwell or Kilmarnock for another season, then their value could go even more. You could get a Lewis Ferguson situation all over again. So yeah, I'm a fan of both of the players, and if they're good enough, then Celtic should sign them. But at this point in time, I don't think they'd be starting games.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against that at all. I mean, how much would it realistically cost us to sign, you know, both of them? Maybe, you know, I don't know, 5 million, something like that, or maybe even less than that. I mean, they're both highly rated players. Scotland, both future, you know, full Scotland internationals, I think, as is, you know, Daniel Kelly. So, and as you say, like, it will help with the kind of homegrown factor as well. I mean, I feel like we've lost a couple of players recently, although the only one in my mind is Mikey Johnson, you know, who probably doesn't have a future with us. So we could maybe do with getting in some players for that old quota, and they would help with that as well. So I certainly think at the very least they're 2 players to keep an eye on over the next, you know, year or so, to really see how they do, because it's pretty likely they're going to get their next big move, and rather than it be to Italy or even England, you know, if they keep doing it, I wouldn't be against Celtic signing, you know, one or both of them. But as I say, we'll keep an eye on them. Hazel reckons Bernardo will come good. Not sure about 6 million at the moment. I don't. Obviously, the money matters to an extent, but the money isn't the thing with Bernardo. The question to me with Bernardo is it a signing we should make? And that question exists whether it's 3 million or, you know, 6 or 7 million. For me, it's the same question. And yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards yes, it is a signing I'd like us to make, because I think Bernardo in a better Celtic team, maybe with a little bit more responsibility and a bit more security as well, if he was a permanent player, could be better than this season. He's not been a terrible signing. He's offered us some big moments. I mean, December he was probably our best player, wasn't he, and really kind of led us through a difficult period. But he's got the talent. It's just him kind of grabbing games by the scruff of the neck that I really want to see. He's good enough to run games. You see McGregor doing it, Hatate doing it, Matt O'Reilly doing it the majority of the time. Bernardo doesn't do it nearly enough for his talent, so that's a big thing for me. But I think, you know, signing him would probably be a good decision, especially if someone like Matt O'Reilly leaves, because he knows the club, knows the league, etc. I was halfway through an international roundup there. Someone was telling us to end the international roundup a minute ago because it's terrible. And again, I do agree, so I'll do this very quickly. Only got a few to go. Rocco Vata netted a hat-trick for Ireland's 21s. Slight caveat that it was against San Marino. I think he's got 5 goals now in 2 matches against San Marino. And it's very difficult to get information on Hyunjin Yang, but he is away with South Korea's under-23s at an under-23 championship in Saudi Arabia. It must be an Asian thing. Korea actually beat Saudi Arabia in the semis and are playing Australia in the final tomorrow. So we'll see if Yang is featuring there. And as we said, Dyson Maeda not playing. Now, don't want to tempt fate. I'm not even going to use the word, but there's been none of them yet, Ryan. And hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
The I word. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be the case over the next couple of days and Celtic have a clean slate and they'll be bringing players back from the I word, long-term I words, that we're not even going to use that word because we know that how, these podcasts, we can jinx things with saying stuff.
I'm not even the ones getting the blame as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have people piling in, but for the wrong reasons. They'll all be saying, you brought this upon such and such. But yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I'm delighted that Dyson Maeda's coming home early, which means he can get a couple more days rest and then back in training. Going to be an important game for him running. And Livingston, he scored last time he played at Livingston at the... it still is the Tony Macaroni until the end of the season, isn't it? It's not as if they've pulled the sponsorship straight away. So yeah, it's Tony Macaroni until it's not, but he'll be an important player in the run-in. Delighted to see he'll be getting a rest. It's good to see Rocco Vata scoring. I've seen a lot of discourse online saying this guy deserves a chance, etc., etc. It was San Marino's under-21s. It's not even San Marino's, senior team. It was the under-21s. We need to
stars of the future.
Probably get a game for San Marino if the truth be told, but. I suppose that's a good pathway, but that's just due to the pool that they're working with. Good to see him scored goals. I think Armstrong Okaflex also scored in that game for the Republic of Ireland, so plenty of Celtic connection in that game. I think he's playing in Switzerland or Austria now. But yeah, good to see him on the score sheet. It's been interesting because he's been on the bench the past couple of games for Celtic, but not getting off of the bench. It's Daniel Kelly that seems to be getting it. Now, you've got to remember that Daniel Kelly and Rocco Vata are in the same position contractually. They're both in talks for a contract that I'm thinking that one of them is further on than the other in terms of getting something sorted. Why would Celtic be playing Daniel Kelly if he was going to leave in the summer? I think that'll just be a matter of time before he signs a new deal. He's had that taste, had that exposure to first-team football, and he'll sign up. I think a pre-season could do him the world of good as well. In fact, he'll be a fully-fledged first-team player. Could hit the ground running next season, could be a good sub-option coming off the bench. Especially if you get guys like Viotati, maybe Odin Thiago Home make a difference next season. Any new midfielders that are brought in. But yeah, I guess that Rocco Vata's contractual situation must not be sorted whatsoever. I mean, they've not announced anything, and that's been that can's been kicked down the road. I think he will leave the club in the summer for pastures new, which is disappointing. But it seems that he's a very popular player for especially Italian teams. I think it was AC Milan that were linked with him at the weekend. So. If he does move on, he'll move on with the best wishes, but you'd like to see guys like this sign on because you want to see the young players come in and succeed. You want to see that pathway working.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about Rocco Vata, to be honest. I know what you mean. Him and Kelly are in the same position, but it just feels very different. There's not been any kind of talk of Kelly leaving the club, and the guy is just a matter of months away. I get that he's kind of fresher to it than Vata. Vata has been around a bit longer, but I think the signs with Daniel Kelly seem pretty good, and I think he'll have a part to play, between now and the end of the season as well. How are you feeling generally about, Celtic, and what are we expecting over the next few days as we warm up for Livingston? We'll obviously have Rodgers at the end of the week, and it'd be nice to get some clarity on the injury situation, Callum McGregor, because he's still the one that, we kind of know Hatati's back now and available, but we don't really know fully with McGregor. Is McGregor available for Livingston?
Yeah, I guess we'll hear in the next couple of days. We'll definitely be hearing from Rodgers in the next couple of days, positively or negatively, because in 3 days' time, he's got a case to answer with the SFA's SFA charges on the 28th of March. So that Thursday
All
will be
right.
a very, very interesting day. I'm sure that Celtic have compiled a dossier, a case against the SFA for the refereeing decisions that happened on that day. Be interested to see how that turns out. But I think Thursday is going to be a massive day. It could have massive consequences because if Rodgers is banned for the game at Ibrox, not that it shouldn't affect the team too much, but it gives you that psychological blow that the manager won't be there on the touchline, especially because there'll be a real lack of Celtic allies at Ibrox anyway due to the spectator situation that's ongoing at this moment in time. You'd love to see Rodgers in the dugout, in the on the touchline in the technical area for that game. But Thursday is going to be a very, very interesting game. Just in general, I'm looking forward to the return of football, the return of domestic football. Even though it's on the plastic pitch at Livingston, I guess it's one more game on that on that pitch to endure. It looks as if Livingston will be going down, and then with that, there's that vote that will go on at the end of the season for plastic pitches. Hopefully, that'll be a thing of the past. Last season, the next season coming, it might be the last season that Celtic need to worry about that, because I think Kilmarnock have committed to getting rid of it after next season. So that vote should go through with flying colours, you would imagine. Should just pass through without any hitch, and then it's only grass pitches that the team need to worry about, and not plastic pitches. It'll be a day that's overdue, in my opinion. I've been a long negative sort of lack of supporter for these plastic pitches, so I'll be glad to see the back of them once they are away.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way you put it. It'll be the last game against Livingston, probably for a good while. Obviously, could still get them in the cups and stuff, but I think if Livingston are relegated, they probably won't be back in the division for a wee while. And we've spoken about Kilmarnock, changing back to grass at some stage pretty soon. So, yeah, that's all positive. You reminded me about the Brendan Rodgers stuff on Thursday. Completely forgot about that. I guess we're intrigued to see what happens. It doesn't feel to me like there's a kind of certain punishment here that everyone's expecting. I think it's clear that Rodgers has, fallen foul of the SFA's rules. I think that's pretty obvious given the wording of what the actual rule is. You can say what you want about the standard of refereeing that day, but he used the word incompetent, didn't he? And he says in the SFA rules that you can't question the, or talk about incompetence on an official's part. So Rodgers clearly done that. I guess we're just hoping that Celtic's case they put forward, and also, what that includes, perhaps that Rodgers has never really done this before, perhaps the standard of the officiating that day may even be mentioned, and the fact that Brendan Rodgers wasn't lashing out in his comments. He was very measured. Are we then maybe anticipating some sort of ban that's maybe held back and he doesn't serve it straight away?
A fine or a suspended sentence, I think, would be ample if he is guilty of the charge, which, I was there. He did say those words, unfortunately, for better or for worse. He did say those words that he's been accused of. So I think a suspended sentence would be ideal, given the situation. It's been I counted 25 days since the incident happened, and I know the reason why. The reason why there's such a delay is to compile an argument against and to take the heat and emotion out of cases. If anything, it'll probably heighten it, just due to the fact of the Celtic Rangers game that's happening 2 games afterwards. That could have a direct impact. You want to have Brendan Rodgers in the technical area at Ibrox. I think that only heightens emotions. I think if they'd have done it earlier, then it would have been a bit better. But I guess this is just the way they do it, and they don't fast track managerial things because it's not as urgent as players on the park. But I'm hoping that it is at worst a suspended sentence. He's never had anything of the sort. He's a first time offender if that is the case. But I'm hoping that if that is the case, then he's given a suspended sentence. I think anything else would just be too much. But that's my own personal opinion. We'll see how the SFA deal with it as well. But it's an issue that isn't going away. It doesn't help that the head of VAR stepping down at the end of the season. You're having other clubs calling out VAR. I think it was
Motherwell
that were calling it out as well. Nobody's happy with the way VAR is implemented. I don't think it's going to go away from the game. I don't think it can go away from the game. It's now going to be in the game regardless if people like it or not. I don't think it's the problem of the technology. I think it's the problem of the people that are working that technology. Somewhere along the line it needs to improve, and there needs to be these teething issues that were present when it was formed in the SPFL are still there 2-3 years. Was it 2 years? A year, 2 years into it. So, it needs to... The acclimatisation period is over. It needs to get better. It needs to get streamlined. There's far too much waiting around, especially at home games for Celtic. Celtic have scored, and then 30 seconds later, you're hearing about a VAR check. Could they not check for VAR while the players are celebrating? Then they know if a decision's right or not, rather than waiting about. It kills the game. If anything, it's an advantage to the opponents because it kills Celtic's flow. When Celtic are at home, they're stopping the game and starting the game. There's a lot of problems that go along with VAR, but I think binning it or getting rid of it would be the worst thing. I think you've got to get used to it. It's something that isn't leaving the sport, and it's something that's going to be there for the foreseeable, I would say.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to leave us. I'm just really intrigued to see how Thursday goes and what the kind of follow-up is from that. I think Celtic will clearly have stuff to say, both in official, on official lines, and also, feeding stuff to certain people. Especially if things don't go our way. I think it's going to be very interesting, but a few people point out maybe based on kind of previous cases it may be a suspended sentence. That's certainly the way I'm leaning, but to be honest it's kind of always been there, but it'd been that long ago that I'd honestly forgotten that was even coming up this week. So that's going to add a little bit more drama to what should be an interesting week, with the players, the international players returning and the prep for Livingston. How are you feeling kind of at this stage about the Livingston game? We obviously had a bit of a kind of, I don't know if it was quite a scare, was it, in the cup game, but it was certainly a tougher match than we expected. That could work in our favour, I guess, but the team should be raring to go and looking to kick on for that St Johnstone game.
Yeah, I think the big difference is Cameron Carter-Vickers wasn't playing, and it's annoying that one player makes up the defensive stability, or most of the defensive stability in the whole Celtic
it's an
team.
issue.
That is the case. He's transformational. Yeah. He's the best defender, I think, in years. He's the best defender since Van Dijk. I've always said that he's the best defender I've seen in the flesh in terms of pound for pound what he brings to the team. I just think he's a special player for Celtic, and Celtic have got to keep him as fit as they can. If the game is over within 50-60 minutes, then I'd be getting him off that park and bringing somebody like Stephen Welsh or Mike Nawrowski on the park if he is fit.
Probably go for all of our key players. I mean, if you're winning the game, you'd take Kyogo off, you'd get Riley off, wouldn't you? Hatate, if he's playing starts, you'd get him off because the following week's just so big.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite gutted for Cameron Carter-Vickers, although I'm delighted that he didn't go on international break. I saw that the USA men's national team won their equivalent of the Nations League last night in the early morning. So I'm gutted that he wasn't part of that, because he will be a stalwart for the USA. As I was talking about last week, they've got a real aging defence. Tim Ream isn't getting any younger. I think he's 34, 35 at this point. There's definitely a place for Cameron Carter-Vickers in that defensive lineup under Greg Berhalter. So you're hoping for the next one, maybe for the summer, that he can get called up.
Copa America.
Yeah, for Copa America. I'm sure he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet for America, just given the way their older players are going out of the team, the younger players are coming in. They've got Gio Reyna in there. They've still got Pulisic. Loads of young players in there that are really making that step up. So hoping that Carter-Vickers can be the same, but I'm delighted that he's put his team forward first. I think he understands the importance of what he means to the team for the title run-in. Celtic, I think, will win the league with Cameron Carter-Vickers in the back line. Without it, I'm not so sure. I'm actually verging on the fact that they won't without Carter-Vickers. I think he's that important to the team. So if they can keep him fit and firing at the back in the back line, then I think Celtic should be okay. But if he's picking up more persistent injuries, which has been the case this season, then I think they will drop goals and drop points as a result. He's that important to the lineup.
Maybe the one positive is, from memory, maybe some of the issues he's had has been when we've been playing kind of midweek football as well, and he's maybe had to drop out of certain matches because his body maybe at the moment can't take that. I think we probably only have one more midweek game in the split. Is that right?
Maybe
Possibly
one or two.
Two max. I certainly don't think we've got one scheduled at the moment, unless I'm forgetting one. And there's usually one during the after the split, and the cup games won't be midweek. So ideally, you're talking just kind of weekend to weekend football really at this stage for Cameron Carter-Vickers, and it kind of is just about making sure he peaks at those moments.
Yeah, I remember in Ange Postecoglou's first season, you could say arguably the best football that was played was when they had that 7 day break in between games. Remember, particularly against St Johnstone at home, I think it was 7-0.
Start of the second season, I always remember, because we had that we had no Champions League qualifiers and the team were flying at that stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you had the same team, virtually match to match. He didn't change anything, and that's what I want to see between now and the end of the season as well. I want to see, a settled back line mainly, but like a settled midfield as well. Fair enough, you can change a couple of positions, you can change a winger or whatever, but like try and obviously hopefully injuries, do well for us and we don't get many of them, but keep as settled a team as possible, because you'll see improvement.
And I'm hoping that the players that maybe haven't hit the ground running, that have joined the club either in the summer or January, they can realise that they're in a title race. They know that from now until the end of the season, they could as well be playing for their futures. If they haven't hit the ground running, they've got to show what they've got at this point and this pressure.
Who are you talking about? What signings? Because I think there's a number of signings we made that I don't think we can rely on to start games. But I would say, Nicholas Kuhn potentially could be a big player. Who could start games.
Bernardo.
Yang, I'll be honest. Yang, jury's out for me. Still, I know he's improved a bit, but I'm still not sure I can hang my hat on him. I think I can hang my hat on Dyson Maeda pretty much. I know he does some really daft things on the ball, but he's proven for 18 months, pretty much, a couple of years actually, that he's been, up for it and able to, give his big moments and all of that stuff. Yang, potentially, but I've just not seen enough of him. Bernardo, I'm not sure if I agree, to be honest. I could hang my hat on him. I think I'd be looking for, Hatate, McGregor, O'Reilly before him.
Somebody coming off the bench, with a bit of legs as well. I'm looking at Ibrox. I'm looking at potentially if Hatate's starting, if he's only got 60 minutes in his locker, I'd maybe start Bernardo and then give Hatate half an hour, because then you'll get the best form of Hatate for 30 minutes rather than 60 minutes, in which you could have a good first half, then burn out in the second half and bring him off. Much rather he be on his game for half an hour than 60 minutes of a mixed bag. With Bernardo, you've got that. With Bernardo, you've got more of a defensive maturity than Hatate, I would say. You can see that in his pressures. He's good at pressing the opposition. He did that really, really well, especially against a team like Atletico Madrid. So he's got that maturity. He can do that against top sides. And he's shown that he can score goals against Rangers. He did that in the last time out at Celtic Park. I think he can up it. But I do agree with you, he has been mixed this season. Lewis Palmer's out for a month, so he's going to have a real lowered impact, but then again he was up and down. I feel like everybody was praising him at one point, and then he just stopped. He stopped contributing goals and assists. He had that one all right game against St Mirren after the break, but it's been too up and down for him this season. A very, very inconsistent player that I don't even think knows his best position. Yeah, I think he could be a number 10. Sounds exactly like the Haksabanovic situation that they had last season. But yeah, if there's any time for these players to step up, it's now. Make that title theirs. Make yourself a hero, whether that be Yang, Kuhn. Yang and Kuhn are playing for that same position on the right wing. If one of them is doing well and the other one maybe he's having a mixed game, and the two can interchange game by game, and I think that brings a good freshness to that position. They both can do it. I know that the jury's still out on Yang, as you said, but the last two games and then the start against Hearts before he gets sent off, he looked very, very positive and direct. Kudins came on and showed that Celtic haven't missed Yang that much, because he's went up a level just due to his off-field problems, and his dental problems have been ironed out. But if either one of those players can step up and get goals and assists, then I wouldn't complain whatsoever. You're just hoping that those players can step up. You're hoping that Ida can step up if he's coming off the bench or starting games. Yeah, if there's any time, it's got to be now.
It's all about big personalities at this stage of the season, and I think Ida, big personality. I've loved what he's brought to the club so far. I don't think we'll see him as much because I think Kyogo's going to be starting most matches now, if not all, when he's fit. But I think Ida will still have something to offer us off the bench. I like him. I think, Kuhn looks like he has something, and again, he's a player I'm excited to see at the weekend. And yeah, we're just looking hopefully just to kick on, and I feel like this season we've picked up a little bit of momentum, and it was really only one game against St Johnstone, but I thought we looked good. And then you go straight into an international break and you come back, and then we've been quite slow. That's kind of how this season has worked so far. We've never really been able to capitalise. So I really want to see Sunday the team, really starting fast and giving us another huge bit of positivity going into Ibrox. As I say, it's going to be a big build up to Livingston. Plenty more videos, 4 more morning briefings to come this week, and we'll be chatting about it and some other stuff as well. Final reminder that we've got this brilliant offer going at the moment, 6 months of access to the Celtic Way for just £1. And if that's not enough, you get a free Kyogo Furuhashi print from renowned football artist made by Frankie. Ryan, thank you for your time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. And things will just gradually be hyped up as the week goes. Speak to you tomorrow.